So anything that is seriously life-extending has to be something that addresses the issue of high blood sugar. And it has to address it in a way that doesn't do it like a drug. Drugs do it by just going in there. They have no intelligence. Drugs do what they do, but they're not smart. They don't know anything other than what they've been programmed to do. They can't adjust the situation to the reality of whatever they see. But the body that's at peace with itself, that's healthy, would say, okay, I can only take so much out of this system, because if I take too much, I'm going to have a hypoglycemic situation. If you take too much sugar out, and people who have hypoglycemia know what the kind of a situation that is. You can't think right, you just don't feel good, and again, you don't see it, but it's also a very inflammatory state. So in order to lose that weight, in order to access it for energy, you must balance your blood sugar. Exercise will do it, it'll help, but at the same time, we have people who are exercising but still putting in that other stuff that's causing the body to have to go over and over and process stuff that it doesn't need to take care of. It's like having an argument and the same thing is brought up all the time and you think you've addressed it and they go right back and hit you again. Anybody who's been married knows all about that. We need to discuss that with everyone. I want to give you a little secret too. Part of what's going on here is when you keep that blood sugar down and you're exercising correctly. Now this is an area we've never really hit on in Endocrine, and Greg, this is a little surprise for you because this is part of the reason I discovered that that Endocrine really works, that we really had no idea before. It's never been discussed that I know of, and that's because it helps produce something called NO, nitric oxide. Back in 1992, a Nobel Prize was granted to some of the scientists who actually discovered the process that nitric oxide plays in your body. You may not know about it, but you're alive now because of it. For your arteries, in the inside of your arteries, your veins, your capillaries, there's a very thin layer, what they call the endothelial cells, 1 or 2 cells thick. It's very thin, but within that structure, it responds to different events like constriction by producing a gas, nitric oxide, not nitrous that you may know from the dentist, but nitric oxide that tells that artery to expand. If it didn't have that, it doesn't open up. When it doesn't, and the reason it doesn't open up sometimes, because you build up plaque, you build up some type of like scum on the outside, like a pipe that's all rusted or crusty over. It can't get out. The nitric oxide won't release, so you can't open up the vessels. High blood pressure? Well, that's the main reason. No nitric oxide release. There's several ways that the body generates that, but one of the most, and they're all very, very interesting. And one other little aside, and guys are going to be you should just be so thankful to those scientists who in 1992 really figured out what nitric oxide does, because that led to some very wonderful drugs, one of which is called Viagra. And what does Viagra do? It opens stuff so the blood can flow. Well, it doesn't just flow in one area of the body, it flows all over. So whatever's flowing there is flowing in your brain, it's flowing everywhere. So it's life extending. It's been a wonderful discovery for everybody. Couldn't thank him enough. And he's at UCLA, incidentally, one of those guys. I have to interview him sometime and just send him all regards from all the guys that I know. It's generated several ways. One is arginine. The body produces arginine and amino acid, and that leads to NO release. But there's other ways. There's a little thing for you, and I'll get to the endocrine in just a minute. But the actual bacteria in your tongue, in the back of your mouth, deep in some of the crevices, some of that bacteria actually works on the nitrates from food, and some of the most NO-producing foods are like spinach, beets, because they're very high in nitrates. I know this kind of goes against some of the things that health food people have talked about for years, the nitrates, nitrites, and the nitrosamines. Well, guess what? The nitrates and the nitrites turn out to be pretty healthy things. And the soil, the vegetables that are highest, mainly green leafy vegetables, are some of the highest in these nitrates. The body gets the nitrate with the bacteria in the mouth that breaks it down to nitrite, which then produces nitric oxide. And it can also, the saliva then can go back in your stomach, and that process will then come up again and produce more nitric oxide. And one of the ways that nitric oxide is produced from these substances, get this, is from polyphenols. Polyphenols are found where? In plant foods, especially the things that you might find in endocrine. So in endocrine, we were always talking about the antioxidants. Well, the antioxidants play a role, obviously, in nitric oxide, but it's the nitric oxide that's produced from polyphenols that's probably responsible for the effects that we get in terms of glucose control in the body, better circulation, memory, better sleep, because you're improving the body's ability to respond to situations where it either needs to contract or to expand. So polyphenols, endocrine rich in polyphenols equals nitric oxide, which equals better health for you. What keeps this, for instance, from the nitrate and the nitrite from becoming nitrosamines, which are cancer-causing, are the antioxidants. So then not only it produces the NO, but then the antioxidants protect the nitric oxide. And this is where sometimes you have to kind of think differently in nutrition than what we're talking about. We always talk about antioxidants. Those are wonderful. We talk about free radicals. Bad. No. Guess what? Nitric oxide's a free radical. It's a short-lived free radical, but it's what they call a signal cell, a cell signifier. It tells the cells what to do. They live for a very brief millisecond, but there's lots of them that are doing the work. And then as a response to that, the body brings up the antioxidants, which keeps the nitrate and the nitrite from becoming nitrosamines, which can be deadly. NO is an integral part of any program that wants to extend life. You can't extend your life without having the proper endothelial function and the production of nitric oxide, because you can't get the blood flow where you want it. You can't get it nourished, and it's not just, again, some kind of recreational drug in that sense, but the body has to get nutrients to the cells. If it can't get through, you don't get what you want. And the other part that we talked about in the beginning, what are the processes? The cell needs to get what it wants, and then what's it need to do? It needs to get rid of what it doesn't need. How does it get rid of that? Well, it has to get the stuff in there, and it has to have the flow to get out again. So nitric oxide, again, you want to look anti-aging, along with our blood sugar control, along with keeping the muscle up, then we want something that produces nitric oxide. Another very, very important area in anti-aging. In fact, to this date, the only thing that has been clinically demonstrated, and up to this point, we're now up to apes in terms of animals that we've really extended this on, because these are experiments that take place over years. Calorie restriction. If you want to live longer, the only thing that has been absolutely demonstrated in all the test subjects so far that have been worked on, again, you can't do it, people. I mean, God, you got a 50 or 100-year experiment going on. You know, you can do it with worms, you can do it with rats, you can do it with monkeys, and now we're up to chimpanzees, and I think we're, you know, the larger primates. And it's so far showing the same results. It's under eating, but good nutrition, but under eating. And this is a phenomenon that takes place that, again, is related back to our little character with the spear running around in the caveman days. Because when they didn't eat for periods of time, and the body used up its store of glycogen, another process, not only burning fat, happened, but it's something called autophagy. Another new term for you. Autophagy, nature's detoxification system. You don't want stuff to build up in your cells that you don't need. Well, how do you get rid of it? Well, we talk about juice fasts, or you're going to do your bowel cleansing, or you're going to do all that. That all works, but the original detoxifying, the original cleansing program was one that's inherent in your own body. Because as you don't eat over a period of time, and it usually takes about 16 hours, 14 to 16 hours after the body's exhausted its glucose stores, for the system now not only to go after fat, but to go up other sources of food. And what's it want to get? Damaged proteins. That's the best source of the amino acids that the body's trying to find. It doesn't want to eat the good stuff. We're too smart. You know, what kind of a critter would want to eat up its vital inner organs? That's not evolutionarily smart. The smart thing is go after things you don't really need. That's autophagy. So something, and we have a broader term for that in terms of calorie restriction and the kinds of things we're looking to do that. But if you're not doing the fasting and you're still trying to get some of the effects of under-eating and cleansing, we're looking for things that are called mimetics. Substances that will mimic, that's part of the term, mimetics, that will mimic calorie restriction without necessarily having calorie restriction. The big news in that regard years ago was resveratrol. It was supposed to be the miracle. It was part of a substance of chemicals called sirtuins. And these sirtuins were supposedly copying this calorie restriction program in our body and would allow us then to get rid of the stuff that we don't want and live longer. Well, so far the resveratrol hasn't worked out the way they want. There was a guy, I'm trying to think of his name, is Sinclair, who had a company that was developing this pharmaceutical form of resveratrol. He sold it to a big drug company for $600 million, some crazy number like that. Well, they stopped the project. Hasn't worked out that well. But let me tell you, if you can find something that will help control blood sugar, that'll keep the muscle in the body, that reduces inflammation, and can also be a mimetic, hey, now you're talking real stuff. Now you're talking real age control. And all of these things, hey, you never know where you're going to show up.
Yeah.
You might find something. So, that's about it in terms of my expulsiveness. But what I can't tell you, is just like watching Back to the Future. You know, you got part 1, 2, and 3. More to come, I'll guarantee you. Thank you so much.